Hello and welcome to this Price Beam webinar in our Thought Leadership series, where today I'm joined by Julie Oxner from Acosta, who is leading up the Center of Commercial Excellence and RGM at Acosta. I'll let you introduce yourself, Julie, and maybe you can say a little bit about how you came into RGM, for that matter, even to Acosta.
Yeah, wonderful. Thanks for having me today. So my name is Julie Oxner. I've been in the consumer packaged goods industry for about 27 years now. Started off with the first 10 years in manufacturing, leading operations and plants as an engineer, and then spent a few years in pharmaceutical sales before moving into data and insights. And I've spent probably the last 10, 12 years in data and insights at a variety of CPG companies. I was at Circana before, and also spent some time consulting. And I've been on the sales agency side for about 5 years, first with Impact Group, which was acquired by Acosta 3 years ago, which is really how I came into the formal RGM world. I was tasked to build a center of excellence here at Acosta with some of the solutions that clients would need in the future. You know, we have a legacy of space management and expertise and category leadership and other types of solutions for CPG clients, but we knew that revenue growth management, e-commerce and omni insights and supply chain were really kind of that next frontier that needed to be addressed. And so we've spent the last 3 years building solutions for clients in those areas. And that's how I got into RGM.
Wow. And RGM is a growing area for you, right?
Yeah, RGM is growing. We continue to add people to our team to support clients. We continue to help our clients accelerate their journeys and really just looking at what we can do to accelerate profitability for our clients.
So what are some of the typical journey paths for CPG companies or organizations at large when coming into RGM? Are they starting from scratch? Are they quite advanced? Where do you see the journey?
Yeah, one of the surveys that we do every year, we see about 50% of our clients that are starting the journey right now and starting to plan resourcing. And that can go in a couple of different ways. That can be like, hey, we have an RGM leader, we know we're committed, but we don't know where we want to start. That can also be, you know what, we have a really good trade planning system, and we know there's something over here with revenue growth management that could help be more formal. So how can we tap into that? So maybe they haven't even needed a formal leader. We have about, I think it's 17%, really haven't started yet. And then the rest is a big chunk of folks who are on the journey, who are starting to get some wins. And about 10%, I believe, are really aggressively going after RGM, have been on that journey somewhere, 10 to 12 years. And those are the leaders of the pack in the industry.
Does it typically start with people, or does it start with tools, or does it start with data? Where does one start?
I think one of the most important things is to have people and support, right? Leadership support, that we are going to go on this RGM journey, and then enabling people. So one of the first things that Acosta did is we trained 1,500 people in our organization on RGM fundamentals across sales, across business intelligence, across even our digital commerce team, so that people understood what it was and demystified and made it less scary. I think that any type of a tool can be important, right? So you don't have to have the fanciest Cadillac of a tool. You can have Excel spreadsheet that helps you do a post-promotion analysis or, start to move forward. And so in some cases, making the tools too complicated is actually a barrier to adoption. So we believe that starting with people is most important.
Yeah. I think also sometimes the people side, well, it depends maybe if it's CPG or if it's B2B. I find, especially in B2B, where there's also this whole negotiation element of negotiating rebates and discounts, people almost matter more than anything else, right? Because it's people who give the discounts.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the advanced analytics are very complicated and in depth, but ultimately that insight and then selling that insight and change into a retailer is very important. And so I agree with you 100% that the negotiation skills and the willingness to even have a confrontational conversation is important.
So is that something Acosta helps with as well, to train the clients' teams?
Yeah, we actually took our 6-module fundamental course and realized that there was a need to break it down more for sales organizations, make it simple, right? Demystify it, make it easy. So one of the things we've done is just do a 1 to 2 hour training session on some of the most important, relevant things, whether it's talking about pricing or promotion. Promotion's been the biggest. And then how do you kind of mask those insights and data? Obviously, you're not going to share your ROI with a retailer, but how can you use indices and other types of things to have the conversation to show what a win-win is for both parties involved? And so
Hmm.
we go to sales meetings and we do this training and we do
Yeah.
exercises. We've done it on webinar as well, really wherever that client is in their journey and helping them to just move forward.
Hmm. So what do you help with typical client with? Can you give some examples?
Yeah. So one of the things that over time we've built, help with pricing, help with promotion and
Hmm.
effectiveness and ROI, help with trade architecture, help with
Yeah.
mix management and portfolio analysis. And so we've had initially all of these separate tools that we were putting in Power BI. So now we have what we call an RGM strategy suite that's in Power
Hmm.
BI that has all of these. We also do a lot
Right.
of consumer research, whether it's pricing or promo, to understand that consumer lens, along
Hmm.
with things like price elasticity. And so it really
Got
depends
it.
on the client's needs and customizing for them. They can have the whole RGM strategy suite and do everything in
Hmm.
one fell
Yeah.
swoop and let
Yeah.
us do the heavy lifting so they can focus on the selling and the analytics. But at the
Hmm.
same time, you can just engage in one thing, like a willingness to pay survey, which is something that's
Hmm.
been super popular, understanding that consumer voice in this day and age.
Hmm. Hmm. Do you think consumer, I mean, when I speak to various CPG companies around the world, I get the impression that a lot of efforts are put into data mining the past, or data mining all the existing sales points or sales data lines we have in ERP. Do you think, and that's clearly growing, but does that mean that one can, I don't know, it's a bit leading, but can you almost rely on that, or do you always need some sort of external view as well from the consumer, or is the consumer well represented from the internal data?
Yeah, I think since COVID, it's really important to have, we triangulate. We use the consumer voice and the consumer lens in everything we do, whether it's our shopper community, whether it's the
Hmm.
custom research we do in pricing or promo, but also with that historical lens, because in the past, we have never seen this historical level of price increase, and not only in a
Yeah.
category, across the
Mm,
whole
mm,
store. And
yeah.
so the income elasticity of demand in the shopper's wallet is really coming into play. So you need to understand that.
Hmm.
What we also find is that when you look at historical data or trade spend data, and you're trying to look at, let's say, an incremental profit-based ROI calculation, just getting that data out of a trade system or just getting it clean to a point where it matches the way you need to look at it and making it
Hmm.
simple. I would say 80% of a lot of our analysis are really cleaning, harmonizing data,
Right.
calculating custom baselines so that we really
Yeah.
get the true lift and incrementality.
Hmm.
And that is something that not every team has at their fingertips, is
Mm,
the
mm,
ability to do that quickly, efficiently, and then get to those insights. And so that's
hmm.
where a lot of folks will look for partners, and that's
Yeah.
where we shine
Sure.
on that.
Are there any typical low-hanging fruits, something that's a little bit easier to get at, especially if you're starting out in RGM as an organization?
Yeah, I think the two low-hanging fruits I see is definitely with pricing, because during COVID over the last 4 years, everything just kind of floated to where it did, right? There wasn't a lot of
Mm, no.
research going in, consumer voice. It was happening so fast. It was like, we have to keep up. We have to do what the competition's doing. And
Yeah.
people just don't know where those, optimal unit revenue curves are. And so
Mm,
knowing that is important, because it can
hmm.
help even influence your promo price point, right? Like, if
Yeah.
I go down to this next bump, is that going to help? The other thing I see is a lot of questioning about my EDLC funding. Is
Hmm.
my EDLC funding, it's a big part of my trade budget, is that
Yeah.
actually funding to a price that makes a difference, right? And so if
Hmm.
you pair
Hmm.
it with that optimal unit curve from the consumer's viewpoint, and you see that the 20 cents you're buying down every day is not doing anything for volume, then that
Yeah.
questions that whole entire bucket. So I think there's the second thing I was going to say is there's a lot of low-hanging fruit with trade, just
Hmm.
how it's allocated. And sometimes it's just a matter of work processes within a CPG company, how they approve, and even
Hmm.
what that oversight looks like, or the data availability to
Mm,
know. We saw
yeah.
a client with 72% of their trade spend going to one regional grocer of 26% of their business. Nobody would plan to do that, but just the
No.
processes led to that. And so making sure that the data is there to look at to then make those strategic decisions. I would say those
Hmm.
two things: the understanding the true pricing from a consumer view, and then also trade architecture low
Mm.
hanging fruit.
So are price increases a little bit the past now because we don't have inflation anymore, and it's more that's why promotion is more important, or is it?
I think that in general, the temperature is that pricing is a thing of the past. It doesn't mean that in some buckets, the commodities aren't still so
Mm,
crazy that might be warranted, but that's going to face a lot more headwinds than we have in the past few years. The
Hmm.
reason that I think that promo has become more important at these days is people kind of realize like my prices are where my prices are, but I still have this huge bucket of money I'm spending. And those
Hmm.
price points and tactics that were in the past, we already knew are being less and less and less effective. I mean, Nielsen and Circana have been putting out reports for years about the in-store being less effective over time. And so how can I better plan that and better utilize those funds to truly drive volume? So the
Hmm.
pay for performance is becoming more important. And that's why
Okay.
I think people have switched to promo, because there's more low-hanging fruit of things that they can do as
Yeah.
opposed to just a price change.
Yeah. I know many organizations where price increases became a bit of an, oh, there's inflation. Look at it. Here's our price increase. We contribute to the inflation.
Yep.
But it was, I don't want to say it was without thought. I'm sure there has been a lot of work going into at least some of those price increases, but we've also seen some clients where then they've come out the other end and they've done 3 or 4 price increases over 2, 3 years, and then we increased effectively by 40%, and now the consumers are complaining, or the trade. Well, the trade was always complaining, right? But now the consumers are complaining too. And what do
Yep.
we do?
Yep. It's a very sensitive time for pricing for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So if we take the other end of the journey, what how does great RGM then look like? What's world class RGM?
Yeah, well, what's really interesting is Microsoft put together kind of the future of RGM with a bunch of CPG leaders that have been experienced in this space. And there's a graphic I can get to you, Finn, if you want to
Hmm.
include it, that basically shows the tech journey and the tech stack journey that would really support and enable this automated insights. And, I show that to clients a lot and say, look, this is what it could look like. Doesn't mean that everyone's going to be able to get there, and you can still make wins and progress, but really a fully automated where you have all the different levers going into one place to help optimize, what if scenario planning. Those are the types of things that in the future tech can enable, but a
Hmm.
lot of folks just aren't there yet.
Hmm. So you think it's data driven, tech driven?
I think it's data and tech driven to get those insights, but then the importance is how does your organization change the culture to truly be balancing
Hmm.
revenue and profit in everything that you're doing, and then cross-functionally working together, because there's RGM teams, and there's analytics teams, and there's sales
Mm.
teams, and there's finance teams, and all of
Yeah.
these folks have to work together and make sure that it's clear on decision making and influencing, and there's a lot of important skills there. So I personally think an important part of it is the culture change you go through, the way that you change your KPIs, the way that you change even your compensation and your workforce skills
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
support that, but then
Yeah.
underlying a strong tech stack that enables these quick simulations and uses all the technology that exists and AI to make it easier for folks.
Mm.
That's what I think best in class will look like, but it's two-pronged. It's definitely the tech, but then it's also the organizational aspect.
Hmm. I guess that's also one of your challenges, if I may, as an external advisor, when you come into organizations, that is, it's rare that pricing and RGM is owned really only by one team, right?
Right.
There's a little bit in marketing, a little bit in finance, there's a little bit in the RGM team, if such a team exists. What's your advice either for an organization? Should you centralize RGM? Should there be this one decision making point and they decide on everything related to RGM, or is it just one of those fields where it must sit in 4 or 5 different departments?
I think it really depends. And that's something that we talk a lot about at like the Promotion Optimization Institute conferences and also the share groups that we're in, which is really helps, because in some cases they report in through sales, some
Mm.
still in finance, some up to a C-suite
Yeah.
executive. And so it really depends on that organization, what their leadership is willing to commit to and try to drive.
Hmm.
So I don't think you can say it needs to fit in one place, because I think it
Mm.
depends on the maturity of an organization. But I
Hmm.
also think that one of the best quotes I heard was from one of the leaders at Coke, and he was talking about that RGM's job is to be a lifeguard and make sure people stay in their swim lanes. It's not to be the police. And I really love that, because if you come in with a heavy hammer, you're not going to be embraced as well. And really,
Hmm.
RGM is more about influencing an organization where the decisions happen. I think it's really important to have a great relationship with sales and enabling the sales teams, because those are the ones who are going to be making these changes with the retailers to implement the plans and making sure that they understand the analytics behind it, make it easy for them to do their job. Simple messaging and storytelling, I think, are really key aspects that'll help an organization go faster.
Yeah. So with these trends, do you think then that the RGM manager of tomorrow is different in terms of skills, in terms of career paths, than the RGM manager of yesterday?
Yeah, I think that what's really hard is finding RGM talent is really tight right now, because it's that magical space of someone who can influence and lead and change a culture and do change management on top of understanding enough about the analytics and what's needed without overcomplicating it. And so a lot of those folks don't exist, right? Maybe you grow up in the finance path, maybe you grow up in the engineering or the analytics path, or maybe you're in the sales path. And so I believe that cross-functional leadership and people who've had multiple experiences and have a good reputation in an organization and are able to work with lots of different types of people, remove barriers, all of those skills are going to be extremely important, as opposed to like, I need someone who can, really crunch the numbers. I think it's a balance of all of that.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, I mean, obviously there's more data, right? But you could even say that for any job. Marketing today compared to marketing in the 90s, it's
Absolutely.
obviously also very different. But if you can't, if you're more of a data person or a people person, it may still be difficult. But so is RGM a good career? A
I
good
think
career
RGM is a
path?
great career. Yeah, because you can touch so many facets of the organization and you're really fighting to make change. And anytime you can lead an effective change in an organization, that's a skill that organizations want, in any organization, right? And so with revenue growth management, Deloitte just published an article that there's twice the revenue growth management mentions in annual reports of CPGs since 2001. There's just a lot of buzz about it and what people are doing to really win, and investments are starting to be made. And, it's really one of the key tactics for growing revenue and profit in this, era of the inflation's kind of slowed, but it's still super high. And we're just seeing, CPG struggle with, where do I get that growth? Because for a while we had the dollar growth from the inflation, but we haven't been seeing the unit growth. And so how do I recoup? Retailers are focused on it. So it's definitely getting a lot of publicity, and being able to do it well and move your organization forward at all levels, in sales, in finance, in marketing even, is extremely important.
And I guess, as you said, if there's shortage of good people, then that must be nice for the compensation packages as well.
I'm pretty sure that's going crazy these days.
So you mentioned a little bit some of the challenges. What do you see as the challenges for CPG companies in the US this fall or next year? What's going to be the pain points?
I think one of the challenges is getting started, right? So maybe you've made that commitment to a resource, or you're on your journey, but you're scared to get your sales teams involved with some of this, right? And so the hesitancy to have all your ducks in a row and have everything perfect before you start. And I really just encourage folks to make a change, get some wins, publicize those wins. It doesn't have to be huge. So don't overplay what it has to be. Just making your post-promotion analysis from looking at lift to looking at profitability is a huge step forward, and it's not complicated. And in general, people understand the difference between spending $1 million to get a case or spending $1 to get a case, right? Of volume. And so that's a thing that you could implement without necessarily boiling the ocean, right? And so I think just getting started or moving forward or deciding, what, we're going to prioritize promo this year and promo effectiveness. And then we're going to start looking at, mixed management next year, building that roadmap, realizing that you're not going to fix it all right now. And that's okay. It's going to be a journey. The companies who've been doing this for a long time, have 12 years under their belt of doing it. And they're still continually evolving and improving and looking at new tools. And the other thing I would say is, it doesn't have to be about a huge investment in tools. It can be the simplicity of something you're doing today and making it better. And so don't necessarily, if funding is a barrier, it doesn't have to be super complicated. You can just start looking at what you're doing today with a revenue growth management capability assessment. That's something we do with our clients to help them with, where are you strong? Where are you weak? What do you want to focus on? What's that roadmap? and then
Yeah.
getting everyone to align and agree to it. And at the same time, educating them on what best in class does look like and where you want to
Hmm.
get and where you don't.
Yeah.
And so that's been really successful in folks getting started. So I would say beyond the obviously promotion effectiveness and trade management, that's really been a focus this year, and I would expect to
Hmm.
continue into the fall.
Yeah.
I think that the capability of organization and where your journey is going to be over the next few years is an
Hmm.
important focus area.
Yeah. I definitely also agree on the top line. Growing the top line is going. If you can't show that, if RGM has a role to play also in either finding new consumers, finding new shoppers, or finding new products that sell better, or simply that people are willing to pay more for. It's not only about, hey, we are just the custodians of a price increase, or we are the custodians of a tool that looks at a gazillion number of data points. It needs to be a bit more the how can we grow the top line, not just
And
not
I think
only the profit, right?
I also think making sure that marketing is super involved in this is important, because
Hmm.
marketing often looks at price pack architecture, but in
Yeah.
essence, like there's a lot of optimization that can be done by just analyzing what's in market today, where the holes are, what your price curves are, what your price ladders look like. And then, making sure that marketing's on board and understands that
Hmm.
RGM is not just like a sales function or a finance function. Like they
Yeah.
should be partnering together when it comes to, what products you bring to market. Like, why would you not do a willingness to pay on a new item to market before you launch
Hmm.
it? Like that
Yeah.
is literally consumer feedback on your product. And so there's a lot of places where maybe something sits in insights or sits in marketing that really could be improved with the overall RGM work that's going on in an
Hmm.
organization.
Do you think marketing is not enough involved today, on average?
And on average, I would say, yeah, I would say
Yeah.
it's still a little bit of like upstream and planning, and I have this budget and here I am. And then, okay, now trade's over here. You guys go and manage that. And so
Hmm.
Acosta actually put a thought piece on our website about a 3-part series about how to get better planning and less silos in organizations, because as the
Hmm.
digital pressures are happening, that's something that sometimes marketing owns that bucket or that shopper bucket. And now, how
Yeah.
can we be most effective in making sure that we're amplifying the work we're doing and not
Hmm.
competing with it as we make investments with traditional trade and then also
Hmm.
digital. So it's an interesting time to be in the industry right now.
Yeah. Is marketing embracing that message?
I think some teams are, but I think that the communication is not happening at the level that it needs to yet. And so I
Right.
just think it's lack of awareness. And so when we've gone to some of the sales meetings doing those trainings that we talk about, we really encourage to get the marketing teams involved, because sometimes they think, oh, well, that's for sales. And so we have seen clients embrace that. And those that do, it's fun. We get in a totally different discussion going on in that marketing group than the others, but helping them all speak the same language is really important.
Hmm. 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 And in terms of the trade patterns, how do you see, what are the trends, the bigger trends in the US market
Yeah, what I
going
see
forward?
is most clients saying, I'm not here to change my trade. I'm not trying to decrease my trade. I'm trying to hold it steady, but I want to be
Hmm.
more efficient at that, which is,
Okay.
probably something that the retailers would be happy to hear. Is they're not looking to
Hmm.
cut, they're looking to optimize and drive more volume for the dollars that they are spending. And so
Yeah.
in this economy where there's still commodity price increases in some of our clients and there's still pressures on them as well, for them
Hmm.
to say, I'm not looking to aggressively cut, I think is really important and really
Hmm.
should help the retailers embrace changes to strategy that could help drive more volume for both of them for the same type
Yeah.
of investment.
Hmm. I I hear some people talk about that we'll probably see some consolidation, right? Either on the manufacturer side, or even, well, probably less so on the retail side. It's a bit more difficult to win retail. Do you think that because we have lost inflation and price increases as a weapon, and yes, we will spend the next 12, 18 months in the RGM community to improve promotion. But do you think that there's going to be, well, we've done all the things we can do, and now it's time to consolidate and emerge and buy up other companies again?
I wouldn't say that I think like the RGM work would like pause and then be like a separate strategy. I think that companies are always looking at mergers and acquisitions as a way
Hmm.
to grow, whether it's new consumers, new occasions. And I think that continues. And you see it in the news every day. Like
Yeah.
me, myself, I've been bought, my companies that I've been at have been bought and sold many times in the last 10 years,
Yeah.
right? So thinking that people are immune to mergers and acquisitions, these days, all of the disruptors and small brands that are coming and
Hmm.
making waves and growing in the industry, you know, become a good target because they
Yeah.
have tapped into either higher pricing, right? Like let's
Yeah.
say something like a Poppy. I mean, that brand is
Hmm.
on fire. And you know, my kids drink a ton of it, as do I, and it's $2.50 a can. I mean, think
Yeah.
about that, right? Traditionally, you would never think about a 12-ounce soda can going for that price, and they found a way to
No.
do that. And so that's going to be very attractive, right? Because it's higher
Hmm.
price realization for a similar
Yeah.
type of a product with better attributes that, you know, clients are looking for. I mean, shoppers are looking for. And so I think it's really exciting to see all of the different emerging brands that can take risks to do things because there's no kind of legacy sales data, right? So if I'm a
Hmm.
new
Hmm.
brand, every new point of distribution, every new innovation is all upside to my business. And so it's easier to take risks and innovate. And then that's going to be more desirable. And as you hear in the news today and the last few weeks, you know, a lot of our clients have, you know, merged. And so that's something that we
Hmm.
continue to work with. And, you know, if you have two companies with RGM teams, then it's like, how do they merge together? You know, what do
Yeah.
they do?
Yeah.
And do we just have one team? So I think RGM will continue to be front and center and important, but I also do think
Hmm.
the merger and acquisition, you know, you look at the Kroger and Albertsons acquisition that's been, you know, going on for a few years now. And you
Mm.
know, so obviously there's a desire to compete more efficiently, improve supply chains, improve financials, and also just grow that shopper base. So I think it'll
Hmm.
continue.
Great. So coming towards the end, what do you think are the key success factors for the next 18 months in RGM? What will the winning teams be doing apart from what we already talked about? What will make the difference if we in end of 2025 we kind of looked at those RGM teams that have done better? What would they have been doing?
I think the key is leadership support at the top level and then ability to remove barriers to progress, right? And so
Hmm.
making sure that that leadership team is firm and I don't want to say like not chasing the shiny penny, but like firm on this is something we're doing. It's a key strategy and tactic, and let's remove barriers and make it happen.
Hmm.
So that's one piece. I also think it's very key that our GM is hand in hand with the sales organization, enabling them, providing tools, listening to feedback, getting wins and publicizing. So the teams that are more embedded with sales, I think will also be more effective. And then
Hmm.
the third, I would just say, making it easy to understand trade, where it's spent, how it's spent, and then looking at that incremental profit ROI on your events to try to repurpose, whether you're doing consumer research on tactics and pricing to change that strategy, or whether you're taking out some of those promotions that don't work. I think that
Hmm.
is going to help fund some of the advances in our GM at a company. And so those are the three things I would say is the leadership
Hmm.
and the integration with sales, and then also just more trade effectiveness and making that data easy to get to.
Hmm. Exciting. And I like the fact that two of those are very people driven rather than purely data. Even if I'm working for a data company, I think it's good to see that there's both data and opportunities and tools, but definitely also people.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons I love it because, like I said, 10 years in manufacturing, leading teams, leading plants, and seeing how important it is to get production results through people. That is like
Hmm.
literally what I grew up on at Procter and Gamble. And so
Hmm.
this is very similar. It really is a culture change. It is not a data activity. It touches every facet of your organization, from reward and recognition to people to hiring to skill sets, you know, to training and upskilling your organization. And so that's a journey that Acosta is on. And that's
Hmm.
also a journey we're here to help our clients with. So it's been really fun over the last few years building this. And I have an amazing team that
Hmm.
is out there every day, like trying to make it easier for clients to get to the insights that they need.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Julie. It's
Thank
been
you.
great pleasure and very insightful. And I hope the audience has appreciated it as well. If you need to reach out to Acosta, we will put the contact details of the team in the notes of the webinar. So thank you so much for today, and I hope everybody has a great day.
Thank you. Have a great
Thank
day.
thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.